Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call this meeting to order, our Compensation and Allowance Commission meeting on August 20th, 2025, starting at 4:03 p.m. Just want to do a little bit of housekeeping if I could. Just remind everyone that this is an open meeting. It is being recorded and it will be out for the public to hear and see. And also, I just want to make everyone aware that because this is an open meeting, we need to follow the open meeting rules and laws. So like emails and things like that, it's considered as a quorum. So we really can't communicate with dialogue back and forth via email. So just make sure that we follow all the legal rules that we need to follow, okay? That's all I have for housekeeping. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. So if you can just say your name and then we'll just go down the line. So, Joe, do you want to start?
My first name's Philip, Joe White.
Joe Venosa.
Stephen Feliciano.
Chris Martin.
Okay, I'm Michelle Wright.
Jim Atkins.
Steve Dowd.
Margaret Sebastian.
And we have Chelsea Phillips Hutton on Zoom. So, and then we might be having someone else join us in a little bit. Okay. So moving forward with our agenda, if I can ask for approval of the minutes from our July 29, 2025 meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or revisions to those minutes? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll do a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We have a full agenda, and the agenda was created based on the input that we had from our first meeting. In that meeting, there was quite a bit of information that we wanted to gather to kind of help us with the discussion. So we're going to start with a review of the county benefits for elected officials, and we have your Human Resource Manager here, Ms. Carvin. So if you want to come up and tell us what you've provided so we can listen and learn.
Thank you for having me today. And as Chair Ms. Wright said, my name is Caitlin Garvin. I am the Benefits Manager for Wicomico County. I went ahead and I believe you have the notes I provided to Ms. Hurley in front of you. And it's a brief breakdown of all of the benefits that are offered to our elected officials here with the county. I went ahead and mirrored it to what previous commissions had received as well, and then tried to provide a bit more information just to show you that full picture of the benefits offered here at the county. So to get started, I'm just going to go through the sheet here.
I don't think we have what you have.
It was emailed to everyone with the agenda packet.
Okay.
If you don't have copies, I can make copies for you. Who does not have it?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you.
She was moving fast. I didn't want to.
No. Did anyone bring
I have
the packet? It was quite a few pages, but so we're probably going to need copies of those as well.
About 4 pages.
Yeah. Jeopardy timer going on.
I know.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, anyway.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Perfect. So as I was saying before, I kind of broke everything down into each individual benefit. So I figured we'd just go directly through the packet. And if you do have questions, feel free to interrupt me if that is easier for the quorum of this meeting as well. With our health insurance, this is a benefit that is offered to all of our full-time employees, including the elected officials. It is an optional benefit, so no one is required to sign up for it. It is completely optional. So they have the time when they first get hired, that is an initial life-changing event, and they're opened into a 30-day window to sign up for health insurance with our county. That then continues to be if they have another qualifying life event determined by overall health insurance rules, which is going to be marriage, divorce, birth of child, adoption, so on and so forth. That opens another 30-day window for changes to be made with that health insurance policy as well. The base of our plan is medical, prescription, vision, and dental, and it is all bundled into one premium and one contract for our employees. So they cannot split into individual pieces of that. They cannot just sign up for dental and nothing else. It is an all or nothing deal for them. With that, the county does allow spouses and dependent children up until age 26 to be covered on that insurance, and that goes along with the Affordable Care Act as well. With the health insurance, they do also have access to the Marathon Health Center. This is relatively new within the past year, I believe, to Wicomico County. This health center is set up for Board of Education employees and Wicomico County employees, and then their covered dependents on their insurance. If you are not on that health plan, you cannot use that center. The purpose of that center is for urgent care and primary care services. So if an employee or an elected official does not have a primary care set up, or they are not happy with their primary care, they can go to the Marathon Clinic, access care there, and if they do like that provider, they can switch over. But they also have a same-day, next-day model for appointments. So for urgent care visits, our employees or elected officials can go right online through the app or call Marathon to set up that same-day visit for them. The reason we made that change is, one, to open up access to care, because in the community here on the shore, finding local providers that don't have long waiting lists to get in can be fairly difficult for our employees. So that's why we went ahead and moved towards that health center model, but we did not want to take away the access that employees already had to those established providers. The biggest benefit to the Marathon Health Center, other than that access to care, is there are no additional costs out of pocket for our employees or elected officials when they use that center. So there are no co-pays owed at that time of visit, and if there's a prescription that is dispensed directly from Marathon, they are not paying a co-pay on that prescription either. The last part of the health insurance, going over the financial side of it, is Wicomico County, from, to my knowledge, the inception of our plan, has determined an 85-15 split for that premium, meaning 85% of the employee's premium is paid by Wicomico County. The employee is only responsible for 15% of that. If they add dependents, spouses, and children, we will only cover 75% of that additional premium for adding those dependents onto the plan. That remaining 25% is then billed out to the employee. We do make those deductions on a bi-weekly basis over 24 paychecks throughout the year. So we break down that monthly premium into 2 payments for our employees. We did that model just because it makes it a little bit easier deduction-wise and digestible for budgets.
Excuse me, these are the same benefits that the hourly employees get, correct?
So it depends on, at what point they qualify. So if they're a part-time employee, they do have to.
Full-time.
Yeah, so all of our full-time employees have this exact same option.
Okay.
Yep.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. What are the out-of-pocket maximums for?
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
It's okay.
And part of that is we do have a PPO option and an EPO.
That was my next question.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
And just to kind of follow up on that EPO and PPO option, the contract prices overall are different between those two plans because the PPO is going to offer more coverage availability. Wicomico County does not change our subsidy split per either coverage. In the way it works with the PPO is we pay the exact same amount that we would on the EPO plan for that PPO coverage. If the employee is electing to go to that higher level plan, they will absorb that additional cost outside of what the county is paying towards that. Yep. Any other questions on that piece? Okay. So getting into pension, this is one of my favorite benefits, so I'm sorry if I go a little overboard on it. But with our pension benefit, it is mandatory for all of our full-time employees and elected officials to be enrolled into that pension plan. Now, with some of our elected officials, depending on when their terms had started and when they were first elected, they do have the right to waive out of that. With it, though, once they start having those deductions made, it is 5.625% of their annual salary. We do not take that as a lump sum. We'll divide that percentage over the 26 paychecks in the entire year. Again, just making it more digestible for the employees. Now, with these contributions, they do earn a guaranteed 5% compounded interest on an annual basis. The reason that's guaranteed is the defined pension is actually a gigantic trust fund. Now, that trust fund is off with our third party. They administer that trust fund. We cannot touch anything in it. So we have to go through third parties to do all of that there. Now, with that pension plan and that trust fund, again, it is earning that 5% compounded interest, and we divide that up to each individual employee. So they are guaranteed to receive back their contributions plus the interest that their contributions have earned, no matter what time they leave Wicomico County pension plan.
I have a question. Is that pre-tax?
Yes. So pension is a pre-tax deduction. The reason is because when we pay it out at the end, there are taxes to be paid on it. It is taxed lower than a normal income rate just because it is a pension and a retiree benefit, and that's per state and federal guidelines.
So this is not through Maryland State Retirement? You guys use a separate trust?
Correct. So Wicomico County and the Board of Education, since I believe the 60s, have had their own pension.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, with the pension plan, to have your effective date of service in that plan, our employees are allowed to elect either the day that they are hired, or for our elected officials, the day they are sworn in, or the first of the month after. It is completely up to them which date they choose. The benefit would be if you are buying back to that first day of hire, typically that's in the middle of a month. So we prorate that initial month there, or half a month, and spread that over 3 paychecks, again, just to make it a little bit more digestible, and then move forward with those normal deductions. If someone wanted to just enroll on the first of the month, once they get that first normal paycheck, first month after hire, that's when those deductions will start for them. Now, to be vested into our pension plan, meaning you're eligible for a monthly payment for the rest of your life, you have to be in that pension plan for a minimum of 5 years. Once you reach that 5 years, you're 100% vested. Now, to reach your normal retirement age, meaning you're getting that highest level of benefit in there, it can only increase just based on the amount of service time and salary you put in there, but you're also getting to keep your health insurance as a retirement benefit at normal retirement age. That is going to be either a total of 25 years of service in the pension plan, or our employees need to be age 55 and have that 5 years vesting period. Whichever one comes first for our employees is going to be their normal retirement age.
So, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking out loud here, but so in regards to an elected official, it would basically mean they'd have to be re-elected at least once in order to achieve that. I see how that works, okay.
I don't know if that was the reason that rule was made that way, but that's just.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
that is how it
interesting, yeah.
works. And that was actually in C, that was mentioned there as well on this
Yeah.
page. Yep. Now, if someone does not reach that 5-year vesting period once they leave Wicomico County, there is no time limit for them to take out their contributions plus that interest in the pension plan. The benefit to letting it sit there is while it's in that trust fund, it's continuing to earn that 5% compounded interest. And because that is that official or that employee's money, that interest that it's still gaining is always going to be owed back to them. Now, that is owed back to either the individual, worst case scenario, if they pass away, it is owed back to their estate or their beneficiary at that point in time. And that can also be done as a lump sum withdrawal where we direct deposit it to them or rolled into another qualified retirement account. It is up to the individual at that time. If they choose, well, if they are vested and then choose to take out their retirement as a monthly benefit, a monthly annuity, there will be a multitude of different options depending on that person's demographics at that point in time, depending on their age, if they're married. All of that information goes into all of those different options that are available to them as well. So it very much varies depending on the individual and their different circumstances for exactly what those pension benefits are going to be once they leave Wicomico County. Just making sure I touched all my points. With the vesting period of Wicomico County, the way we do find that life annuity is a set formula, and that's on that second page. So that set formula is going to be their final average earnings. That average is going to be the highest 36 months of salary. So we take a 3-year window and find the average from there. We multiply it by 2% and then multiply it by their service time. And that is service time in the pension plan, not necessarily employment time with Wicomico County. That's also why it gets so varied in those calculations once someone does retire too. The last piece is, again, just those 6 different options that are available to be chosen from. Every employee will have those base options, and then if they are married, we include those. If they are under the age of 62 and 65, they will have additional Social Security options to look at as well. Any questions on that piece? Alrighty. So the county does have a death benefit here for our full-time employees and our elected officials. This is not a traditional life insurance policy, so that is why it's labeled as just a death benefit there. With that is if that official dies during their term of service, and that does not have to mean they are passing away in the middle of a council meeting. That is just during the term of their service here with Wicomico County. An amount equal to their yearly salary will be paid out to their beneficiary at that point in time. The kind of asterisk to note on that is that payout is going to be viewed as income, so it is a taxable benefit. My opinion, it is better than nothing at that point in time, but the reason it is that taxable benefit, not a life insurance policy, is it is a lot harder to guarantee a certain figure for all employees across the board through an insurance policy with all the different variations in ages. So we went ahead and went to the budgeted side where we know exactly how much everyone paid out based on their yearly salary. With that, if an employee passes away or an elected official passes away before their first year anniversary with the county, it is going to be paid out on a prorated basis for what is left in that budget year for that position. After that year anniversary, it is that full amount that was budgeted for that position is paid out to the beneficiary. With that, there is no timeline for the beneficiary to take that money out from the county. So once we receive that death certificate, as long as they complete that tax information, the documents required, we can process that benefit as soon as possible for that beneficiary as well. Any questions? Okay.
I do actually have one question, and it doesn't have to be answered right now, but at some point, could we do like an example of the pension payout for, say, someone who would have served, say, 2 terms and retired at normal retirement age, to see what that...
Without having an actual, like, person that you want to use as an example, it's going to
Yeah.
be very difficult.
Okay.
Because where it takes into account marital status, it
All the
takes into
demographic data.
account how old they are when they're leaving, their overall, I know you mentioned having 2 terms and what that is, but it also goes into account depending on what their salary was at that point in time. So where we have had changes in council salary, depending on where we project that out to, it may not be an accurate example for you.
Okay, thank you.
For long-term disability, so this is 100% county paid for our employees. So it goes into effect 30 days after your date of hire. So, or I apologize, first of the month after 30 days of hire date. So for elected officials where they're typically sworn in at historically the 5th, 6th of the month of January, their benefit would go into effect on March 1st for them because it has to be that first of the month after the 30 days. We can't start it in the middle of the month. Again, that is 100% paid by Wicomico County for our employees, for our elected officials. The long-term disability does kick in once someone is unable to perform their job duties, and that only has to be one aspect of their job duty, keeping them out of work for 6 months or longer. Now, the individual does have to go through the application process for that benefit to start, but we try and be extremely transparent and helpful through that process. The last thing we need is someone reaching that 6-month mark, waiting for income, and they're still not receiving it and waiting on an application. So we work through that whole process with the employees or with the official to make sure that if they want to apply for that benefit, it is accessible for them to do so as well. Now, with that policy, it does only pay out 60% of that person's salary or income at that time. And then there are caps at, I believe, $6,000 a month for the overall benefit. Now, with that benefit, it does decrease the amount paid out from long-term disability if the individual is receiving outside income from other sources. So if they start receiving a Social Security disability payment, if they have another job that they are receiving income from, or have a retirement that they are receiving income from, those will decrease that long-term disability payment. That payment will last depending how long, depending on the age of the individual. Typically, it goes until their normal retirement date kicks in with us. We will make sure their retirement starts, and then once they get to Social Security age, there will be an additional drop down in that long-term disability benefit for them too. If someone is already at their Social Security age, there is shorter timelines and windows, but it does get very specific of where they are in their age of how long that benefit will be paid out. Any questions on that piece? All right. The next piece is our 457/401A. That is a deferred compensation plan. This is our optional retirement plan, so none of our employees are mandated to participate, but it is an additional way for them to invest in themselves and save for retirement. The 457B is essentially a 401K account, but there are additional benefits for it being under the government umbrella. The biggest benefit is there is no early penalty for withdrawal if someone is withdrawing that money before the age 59 and a half. So that's a big advantage for a lot of our employees. Now that 457B, it is split into that 457, and then we have a 401A account. That 401A account is where the county match gets put into, and the reason it's in a separate account is so it doesn't count against the contribution limits for our employees, because we don't want to punish those that are taking time to invest in themselves by giving them a match and them having to be refunded and penalized for contributing to their 457B plan. So that's why they are in 2 different accounts, just for that accounting purpose there. In the past 2 years, we have also added a Roth option to our 457B. So our employees are able to contribute pre-tax and post-tax to that plan. They do not have to do one or the other. They can actually sign up for both, and Empower, which is the administrator for that benefit, internally accounts for each part of that money that they are contributing to the plan. So when the employee goes to withdraw it, Empower has a track of everything and says you can only take out X amount pre-tax or X amount post-tax for them as well. With that benefit, the employees, the minimum deduction is $20 per paycheck. At any point in time, they can enroll in that benefit, so it is not something that they only have that 30 days at hire date or those special enrollment periods. Any point in time, someone can say, hey, I want to sign up, and go ahead and log into that and start their deductions. On the same note, they can pause their deductions, stop them, and adjust them at any point in time as well. So our employees have full control over those accounts. And it usually takes about a week for them to be updated in payroll, which is pretty normal with our payroll cycles as well. Now, with that 457B plan, I know I mentioned the match earlier. That historically is at a rate of 20%. Now that is subject to budget approval as well through our county council and our executive office. So it is not a guaranteed for our employees or our elected officials, but historically it has always been passed at a rate of 20%. The current contribution limit for 2025 is $23,500 per year. So that's the maximum anyone can contribute to that plan. And Empower does also give us those notes to cut someone off if they are reaching that amount as well. Some participants, depending on age or depending on their job status, so for our law enforcement officers, there are special catch-up contribution limits that they are allowed to make. Those all go into account of what they had previously contributed during previous calendar years. So that catch-up would increase someone to $31,000 that they are able to contribute throughout a calendar year there as well. And that's just to make sure if someone was delayed in investing in themselves, they still have the option to catch up. Any questions on this piece? So the second to last of our actual benefits that we're going through is our optional ones. So optional is optional. No one is mandated to enroll in those. We have American Fidelity and Mutual of Omaha. Those two companies offer a couple different options for our employees. With American Fidelity, they administer our flex spending account. So that is essentially a debit card our employees can enroll in to budget throughout the year for any medical expenses. So they sign up during open enrollment, get this card that, for example, has $200 on it. That $200 is divided over our 26 paychecks, and that's how they pay on that card throughout the entire year. But that initial $200, they can swipe in one day and use it all on one medical expense if that's what they need to do. The other flex spending account would be the dependent care, so that is going to be used specifically for child care costs as well. So we all know daycare is extremely expensive right now, so that is just a way for our employees to set aside, I believe the limit is $5,000 for them, and they can pay throughout the entire year rather than that just being deducted from their account. We have limited benefit accident only insurance, so if someone trips and falls down the stairs, has to miss work to go to the urgent care, get an x-ray, they're being reimbursed a certain amount based on whatever accident they have. Limited benefits for cancer policies, that is again going to be if someone is diagnosed with cancer and they are receiving treatments. Those can be very expensive, not just with the actual cost of the treatment, but traveling, possible lodging, meals, all of that nature with caregivers as well too. So with that cancer policy provides set benefits if someone is experiencing that hardship. Critical illness is essentially the same exact thing, except they take out all the cancers and replace that list with every weird illness that you could possibly ever imagine. And it is the tiniest print on there because they fit so many different things in there. But that, again, takes care of those additional costs that come along with treatment and caregiving. The hospital indemnity insurance, that is similar to an accident policy, but someone has to actually be admitted into the hospital for that policy to pay out for them. So that would be more so for a more severe accident or if someone had an unexpected surgery they have to go into. With our short-term disability insurance, that is what is going to pay out someone a certain benefit income level that they sign up for in that 6-month period that we would be waiting for that long-term disability policy to kick in. So even though they may still be getting paid either through FMLA, workers' compensation, If they qualify for that short-term disability, they can also receive that benefit as well if they had signed up for that policy. Term insurance and whole life insurance. So both American Fidelity and Mutual of Omaha offer those term policies. Both of them are rated across our entire group. So the benefit is it's going to be a lower premium signing up here with Wicomico County than you may find outside with a private insurer. But again, those are completely optional. American Fidelity does also offer whole life insurance, so that is going to last for our employees outside of their employment for Wicomico County. So they are eligible to take those policies with them, and those premiums do not change even once they leave our county group. The last thing in those optional benefits is pet insurance. So with our employees, we know some of them with their furry friends are just as much children as their actual human children. So taking care of them in this crazy vet bills is just as important as it is taking care of our own medical insurance. And with that pet insurance, they can go ahead and quote their dog, cat, pet at home. I don't think we do fish, it's just dogs and cats right now, but they can quote them and sign them up for different levels of coverages. They receive a 10% discount for their first pet. If they sign up a second pet, it is an additional 10% off that as well for them. All right.
Questions on that?
So with health insurance in retirement, so once someone reaches normal retirement age, again, that age 55 and 5 years of service, or a total of 25 years of service in our pension plan, once they leave Wicomico County, they are eligible to keep their health insurance. When you are under 65, you remain on our Care First insurance. It is the exact same benefits that our active employees are on, just a separate contract because it is our group of retirees and we have to bill them post-tax. We can't bill it pre-tax, so that is the biggest difference there. The other piece is that we bill it out once a month rather than a bi-weekly deduction. With that insurance, they are not mandated to keep it, so if they do not want to keep it and want to sign up for other insurance, they are more than welcome to. If they get rid of our county insurance completely, they cannot rejoin our plan. So with that, most do continue to stay on that county plan. The overall contract price does increase a bit because it is a smaller group of retirees that we are covering. But again, Wicomico County covers 85% of that premium for a retiree and 75% for any dependents that are covered on that retiree's plan as well. Spouses can stay on for life and children, again, up until age 26 on that plan. When a retiree turns 65 or is eligible for Medicare through other forms, they do move on to our Medicare Advantage plan with United Healthcare. The reason that is separate from the Care First insurance is because of the rich benefits that we were able to offer in that Advantage plan, and it is actually a lower premium than what we were offered with Care First. Now, with that Advantage plan, there are no copays that any of our retirees pay out for any medical services. They only pay out for their prescriptions, and that's all tier-based and comparable to our Care First plan. We continue to subsidize that benefit at that 85-15 split and the 75-25 as well. With Medicare, that is mandated by the federal government, so we unfortunately cannot do anything about that premium there. That is still the responsibility for our retirees to pay on their own. Covered dependents in retirement. So if our retiree were to pass away, as long as their dependent continues to pay on their health insurance, their spouses are able to retain that for life. And again, children are able to retain that coverage until age 26 as well. Any questions on that piece? Alrighty. The last page here was, this was included with the previous commission's request, so I went ahead and updated it for you as well. This just gives a brief value estimate of what is the actual dollar amount for all of these benefits. 457B, as we had mentioned, the IRS contribution limit is $23,500. That 20% match of that number would be the $4,700. It then went down to council vice president and then a regular council member salary. The reason the county executive and sheriff are not included is because both of their salaries are above that contribution limit. So therefore, they're included in that line as well. The value of the death benefit, as we mentioned, it is that amount of their current year's salary. So those are those numbers you'll see. I did add the note that for District 3, where we did have a change in members, until that council member reaches their year anniversary, it is that prorated amount. For the health insurance, these numbers here, that is the total amount that the county would pay out depending, well, for any plan that the employee would sign up for at that point in time. So that just shows you the total year breakdown there. Pension plan, as we had mentioned earlier and with Mr. White's question, it is a little bit harder to determine an exact amount per person just because of all the different variations that go into those overall calculations. But again, that vested employee contributes the 5.625% of their salary, and we use that that formula to go ahead and find what their initial life annuity is at that point in time for retirement. If they are not vested, it is just those contributions plus the interest earned at that time is owed back to the employee, nothing more, nothing less. The value of the long-term disability, we as the county are charged 39 cents per $100 of covered payroll. We then break that down into the individuals, into their departments, and that's how we bill it out to the departments at that rate. And again, those are those amounts per the requested positions.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Are there any other questions?
Do you have any questions?
This is probably a very unfair question because you've given us great detail on this, but from your experience in your position, how would you say this benefit package compares to other county systems in our region? Just, and I understand it's a very subjective and probably anecdotal question, but I'm just curious from your expertise.
It depends on which way you look at it, in all honesty.
Sure.
I think base level as an active employee and elected official, we're extremely competitive with those benefits there. In retirement, it depends on what you're looking for in retirement, if we're gonna be as comparable to the state or not. I think our retiree health insurance benefits are far beyond what a lot of our other local entities and the state currently is.
That's what I was at, yeah.
Yeah, our retiree benefits are extremely rich. I'm very proud of that because we are able to take care of them for the long term as they took care of us as employees.
Thank you.
Ms. Garvin?
Yes.
Do you have, again, this is an incredible breakdown, so thank you so much, but do you have an idea of the number of council people that have taken advantage of the benefits, mostly the health care insurance, to include dependents and
I would have to get
spouses?
back to you on that off the top of my head. I am not sure.
Okay.
Yep.
What else? I agree, this is very
helpful.
very
Thank
helpful,
you so
very,
much.
very
Very
detailed,
good.
and
Thank you so much.
very easy to comprehend and
Yeah.
take in.
Good,
so.
because benefits are not always easy.
No, it's not.
so-
No, it's
So
not.
we've experienced, some of us.
Yes. And then if you have any further questions, I know you'll be in communication with Ms. Hurley. If she needs to send any more to me, I am happy to provide that information to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. And I failed to let our alternate introduce themselves earlier. Do you want to, we have an alternate here in the audience. Do you want to say your name?
Brian Wick.
I apologize for not doing that earlier. Okay. Also, I think we have more information to hand out.
I do.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Thank you.
Charlie. Appreciate it.
I'll take one if you have it. Thank you.
Okay, moving along with our agenda, we have information before us. It's the fiscal year 25 MAGO survey. County employee salaries for elected officials. This would include county executive, council president, council vice president, council members, and sheriff. So, should look like this, I believe. Everybody have this?
Yes.
And again, this is information that we had discussed that we would like to have for consideration. So this is how I kind of envision us working through this process. I wanted to get all the information before us. Today, I just want us to kind of look through the information, see what questions we have, and then next meeting, do the deep dive. Give everybody a chance to take this home, think about it, do your homework, see what other questions you have, and then next meeting, do a deep dive. And I would like to break it out by executive, focus on that first, then do council, then do sheriff. I think it's easier for me, hopefully it's easier for you if we just take them one at a time and not try to mix them up and talk about them, together. I think if we just keep it separate, I think it'll help us with the discussion. So is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I know that, I'm not sure, has anybody had time to look at the documents that were emailed to us? Okay. So if we look at this fiscal year 2025 survey, it does give a lot of information. It does allow us to look at the county executive on page 1, and you're able to see which counties work under an executive type of government. And then further back, there's some information, I believe, maybe it's in another packet I had pulled out, to see what their population is, so we can kind of compare. And I know that a lot of the counties who have an executive type of government, their population is a lot larger than ours. And I know that one of the things that we're going to want to talk about, and I think it's one of the things that Mr. Taylor had tried to point out, and Joe, you might have some similar information you want to share later, about how we compare ourselves to similar-sized counties. What's fair pay for the same type of job duties for the same size of people that they're trying to serve. So, I don't know if anybody has anything they want to say at this point. Is there anything you want to share? Is there anything that came to top of mind when you were looking through this at home before you got here today? I'm just going to open it up for discussion.
I think one of the things and I love your plan to break it down in future meetings where we're going to do it executive, do council, do sheriff. But when I'm doing averages in business, I'm looking for more of like a mean. I'm trying to take the extremes out, and before we actually do break down into those 3 segments, I think that it would be very helpful to figure out which data points are relevant, because even when you look at the thing that was presented, and this was actually my concern, there is an average on here, but that average is somewhat skewed by places like Prince George's County and Baltimore City. So as a collective, I think it would be better to say, well, we feel like Frederick County is a data point that we want to utilize. Cecil County, maybe not Allegheny County because it's small.
Yeah, we're going to have to break out the larger counties.
Yeah.
We can't compare.
We don't want to compare apples to razor blades.
No. So we need to look at what counties do we feel like we are
Yeah.
comparable to and focus on those counties.
I will say, I would hate to spend 3 different meetings having discussion using some data points that could give you false
If
positives.
it's not relevant, we don't need to be talking about
Exactly.
it. It's a waste of time, I agree. Yep. So,
I don't think Wicomico can compete with the Baltimore cities
No.
of the world.
correct.
Vermont.
So let me ask this question so that we're all clear. Which counties do you want to compare ourselves to?
Well, I think,
I would probably say Cecil County would be one of them.
Okay?
yeah, Cecil County is almost identical.
That's
when you look
correct.
at the
Yeah.
demographic.
They have a slightly larger budget,
Yeah.
but in comparison, I think they're the closest.
There is 2 counties in particular that I think deserve consideration, but there are some differences we should state, and that's Frederick County and Anne Arundel County. And one, for instance, is Anne Arundel County does have a police force that's not a sheriff's office. So I think that they give you some good data, more so than, say, Prince George's County. But Cecil County is definitely my number 1.
I concur. Cecil is, I think, the template for a lot of our comparisons, just because of the similarities.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to share?
No, I'm
How
okay.
about down here on this end? Is there anything you want to add?
I agree with the Cecil, the Frederick. I mean, I'm from Frederick, and I know Frederick's a lot more expensive than Wicomico County, I know for a fact. And I think some of these, like it was mentioned, and there was a long email, even some of these bigger ones, we can make the comparison and say, well, say the Frederick is whatever the ratio, say a 1.3 compared to Wicomico's 1, and you can kind of do the math that way for things that are bigger. Or say something like, well, the Anne Arundel, same case. I mean, it's hard to find something with the executive form that's mirrors us exactly. I mean, there's close to us, you know, what do we have? Dorchester, Somerset. I mean, Talbot's a little farther away, but not necessarily the executive. So you can't, it's hard for the apples to apples there.
Yeah.
I agree with the Cecil. I mean, the Frederick can be sort of your higher end outlier.
And I think there's a way to qualify Frederick County and Anne Arundel County and Cecil County for that matter with 3 other data points, and that are like average household income in that county and median home price, because it would allow you to say, okay, yes, Frederick County is 3 times larger, but a house doesn't cost you 3 times as much, but also the median household income there is, I don't know the number right off the top of my head. So, you know, I think that there are some counties, because to me, Frederick County, I think, compares better than even Dorchester County does, even though they're close.
I agree.
But I would, if somebody wanted to go through Dorchester County, I do think that's a worthwhile, you know, endeavor as well.
So I'm not from the state of Maryland, and I've lived in the Chicago, you know, the Chicagoland area, and I appreciate the conversation about what county should we compare ourselves to, but people don't just stay here, and their salary goes beyond Wicomico. So I understand, I'm looking at the numbers, and I see Prince George's County is like, wow, that's beautiful. That's what people are getting paid there. And I do think it's a worthwhile argument to think about what someone is getting paid barely an hour away from here. Like that is really across the bridge. And we're saying, hey, we don't want to consider them because they have more people or they get paid more. They do get paid more, and they're not that far away from here. And that is a concerning factor to me. So then we're saying, hey, you live in a small town, you deserve to be paid less. So that's why I'm hearing that, and I appreciate the conversation, but I just want to put it out there.
I would say, though, having done some recruiting in my career, there are jobs where you recruit folks from outside the area, but county council and county executive would not be recruited to come here because they must live here.
Right.
So I do think your point is spot on. I don't know if they lost me for a second. Your point is spot on. And it should be a consideration, but we're not, unlike, say, Rehoboth, the city of Rehoboth in Delaware, they went out and found their city manager from somewhere else, and their salary is really large to reflect that they went, but we're not going to do that for any of these positions.
Well, and I think also one of the other things, when you look at the executive or the sheriff or any of them, that what their duties and responsibilities are in the county. Because, you know, Prince George's County, the executive has a lot more responsibility, I think, than the executive in Wicomico County does, or the council. I think
They may, but they may not. I mean, I work at Salisbury University. My job is just as intense as it was at a different university in a bigger town. So I understand the thought, because it makes sense, but we can't assume that they have less responsibilities because it's a smaller town.
No, not just that it's a smaller town, but when you look at their job descriptions and what their powers and duties are, you can determine at that point in time whether or not a person. The other thing that I look at and have looked at a lot is, I mean, Mr. White talks about the medium household income. I've even taken it down further to the individual household income, because, you know, one person in the house might be making $100,000 and the other one might be making $40,000. Well, that says that your medium income is $70,000.
That's a fair point.
But if something happens and all of a sudden you're not together, you've got a person making $40,000. And if we're looking at somebody who if you look at the individual income, medium income for an individual, and you start getting into the multipliers where some elected officials are making 3 or 4 times as much as the medium individual income for people in this area.
I think, yeah, and that's the key point, I think, is that part of it is the comparative nature, but it's also the context,
Yes.
right? Like the context of what is the executive or the council member in relation to the county we're in, right, in terms of all those other data points. So, yeah, I concur.
I will say, I think too, we shouldn't limit it to just county-wise, because you're competing too with private. I mean, if you look at, government never really pays as much as private sector, but those options are out there. So if you compare, say, even looking budget size, you know, in the hundreds of millions, even, say, on the finance side, or the head, like, essentially executive, the head of, one of the heads of the county. The private sector numbers, I think we should look at too. If nonprofits, you can look at their 990s if they're highly compensated. You can look up those high salaries and look up, say, I know for a fact, if you look up any comparable budget in the nonprofit world, you know, the numbers will be astronomical. So I think we shouldn't just limit it to counties. You should look at sort of private sector too, and at least have that in the conversation. Not that it would, the executive would pull from the private sector, but
Good.
Oh, yeah, I think you have a right, I think, I would agree with your point.
How do you actually, though, determine that in the context of what we're trying to do? Because there's a lot of variables that we'd have to,
of course, and
Yeah.
the variable, obviously the private sector in most cases is going to be more, but you can still sort of do a comparison of, say, well, you know, the CEO of something with a similar budget, obviously it's not going to be the same tax revenue and many, like tons of different options. But I think it would be good because that's the people you're competing with. You're running a whole county, okay, it's maybe not the same as running a nonprofit, but there is definitely similarities.
there's also one other factor, too, in the context of Maryland and some of these other counties, and that's the federal government in Washington and how that could skew some of those.
Oh, yeah, you look at the numbers near DC.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
And that is one other factor I think we need to address, especially when we're deciding which counties to look at. In Wicomico County, we have about half of our residents live in a municipality now. So some of the functions for folks who live in Del Mar are done by the executive of Del Mar, the mayor. Some are done in Fruitland, as you could speak with. There are some of the counties that are on this survey that don't have municipalities or have municipalities with very limited, they don't have much of a role themselves. So in those counties, their county council, their county executive has a much bigger role in everybody's life. If you live in Del Mar, the county executive, the county council don't determine your water bill, but they most certainly do in Howard County. So it's more of, when we go to pick these data points, we just have to make sure that if there are apples and oranges, that we can at least understand the difference, and we're not doing, as Dr. Venosa said, apples and razor blades, which would be terrible.
And that's a horrible illustration. We don't want to be comparing that. I think maybe what I hear you all saying is maybe you want to look at job descriptions and you want to see what people are doing that is different, because we're assuming that someone is different because they live about an hour and a half away from here, and they may or may not be, and we don't know. So if we're looking at salaries and saying, wow, they get paid $200,000, what are they doing? And then we see their job description and they're doing much less than we're doing in Wicomico County, that's a better comparison than just their salary.
You're right.
I have a question. Are we to assume, especially with like the county executive chart here, the other counties have no comments for additional benefits? Is it just we included ours and didn't include everybody else's, or we make the assumption that a different
with that question.
type of reimbursement is
I don't know if
not
other
provided?
county executives have a car, a vehicle, or I'm sure they've got a laptop. They probably have some.
Yeah, so this is
if we want to look at Cecil and Frederick, we can probably get that information for the next meeting. I would think that they would share that, right?
Look at the benefits from those counties? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and I guess, I mean, I'm listening to everyone's comments, and I'm looking at this from, these are the job duties, and what is the value of that? And, you know, and I agree that we need to be looking at Cecil and, you know, counties that are similar in size does and things like that, but I want to make sure that I am part of a process that provides a fair pay for the job that's expected. Okay? And I understand, and I agree with you quite a bit that, you know, we can't, just because we see numbers doesn't mean that they're doing more or less. You know, I just want to make sure that at the end of this process, that we are offering a fair pay for the job that's expected. You know, I understand, and I'm listening to everyone talk about, you know, the average income and things like that. And they're all important pieces. But at the end of the day, there's a job that needs to be done, and what is the fair pay for that job?
To your point, Madam Chairman, I think one of the interesting challenges is that when we particularly look at it from the council member realm, and many of us know council members, so we can talk to them individually and ask, but I think what we'll often find is that the value of that work is hard sometimes to discern because different council members in different eras and different districts will have different levels, let's say, of engagement and work. And so how do we, this is always the thing, how do you quantify that?
Well,
It's going to be.
that's going to be
Yeah.
a constant
It is.
issue. I can
yeah.
see being on the school board.
Exactly. Great
I
example.
served with
Right.
7 people, and
Oh, yeah.
I know that some didn't put as much time as I did. I know
Yep.
when I came
Sure.
for a meeting, some others I
Absolutely.
did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we all got paid the same salary.
Exactly.
Like $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just going to be.
It is.
what
I
it
understand.
is.
Yeah,
You
but-
know, all we can do is try to make sure that we're providing.
I get it,
a
yeah.
fair pay for the job that's being expected.
Yeah, I'm just saying, how do you get to fair with that kind of elasticity of experience? Yeah.
Right. Anybody, other comments? Anything else they want to say? Did you want to highlight any, you know, we talked about the executive. The next page, on page 2, is the county, the president. You can see that, you know, currently they're getting paid $25,000. You know, we've already heard about the benefit packages, you know, the healthcare and things like that. Do you want to get similar information that we're going to be getting for the executive as far as any other benefits for those as well?
At least for some of the counties that
For the
we think
council?
are pertinent. yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then,
So that was Cecil and Frederick?
And I would also suggest Anne Arundel, but that's just my opinion. I mean, that's, it'd be better if we discussed it as a group. That's,
Yeah, actually, one question that I actually would like to ask now regarding just the executive position, and I ask this because this has come up in our county, is with regard to sort of other fringe benefits such as car access. I mean, it says mileage, but for example, does the executive in Cecil have access to a vehicle in the same manner? You know, just sort of those things that maybe are sort of part of the totality.
I think mileage would be mileage reimbursement if they use their own vehicle on,
Right.
you know.
But-
you're looking at the council.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
So
yeah.
There's a car here, yeah.
Yeah, so, right, so what I'm saying is then, do these other counties also include that? That's what I'm asking.
I would assume, as far as mileage reimbursement, yeah, I think that's pretty, I would assume that's standard.
You know, yeah.
I think it's
yeah.
more of them they just entered the number and didn't enter all the benefits like Wicomico did.
Right.
In our county, now, if there is a vehicle available, there isn't a mileage reimbursement. So that's
So they
actually,
would use their, like a county vehicle.
so they must use a county vehicle if there's one available.
And so how does that compare to Cecil is what I'm
Yeah.
asking us to just think about.
so make sure that Ms. Hurley understands what we're asking. You
I
want
understand what you're asking.
you want
Yeah.
Cecil, Frederick,
Frederick.
Anne Arundel?
Yep.
Any other counties?
Other than vehicle, is there any other benefit that you guys are interested in?
The pensions and that sort of thing?
Well,
Well,
I would
don't
say
know.
cost-wise, I think health benefits is probably your main one. The vehicle is probably pennies compared to what that health is. I mean, I think offering health, I mean, if the health is apples and apples, the cell phone vehicle is probably,
But
minuscule.
the young lady from the HR department did say that their retirement package here, she felt was strong. So just some sort of,
I agree, especially the retirement.
yeah.
So it's stronger than the state of Maryland. We do have job descriptions for a lot of these things for Wicomico County, so it would be beneficial if we could get it from those other counties to see what their job descriptions look like.
And Chelsea, I think you're still on Zoom. I don't want to ignore you. If you have anything you want to share or
I don't have anything to share, no, but I certainly appreciate the granularity of the conversation today. It's been very helpful, very enlightening.
please speak up. I don't want to feel like I'm ignoring you.
Not at all, no. Everyone has actually raised questions that were on the tip of my tongue, and then there they came. So we're great. I'm perfect.
Very good. Okay,
Thank you.
so we had talked about the president of the county council. We also have the salaries for the vice president, the other council members, and then the sheriff. Does anybody have anything they want to raise any comments or questions or anything, or need further information for next meeting for either of those?
Do we know why the sheriff was included in this, where the conversation was about sheriff's salary to be included? It's not in the legislation. It's not in the charter.
It's optional. We can discuss it or not discuss it, and we decided last meeting that we wanted to leave it open for discussion.
Okay.
Is there anything else out of this packet that anybody wants to point out or discuss? Okay. Also provided to us was the job descriptions for the county executive, and then also all the department heads that fall under the executive. So hopefully you have a copy of that. Also, we received for the council their job duty expectations, and then, of course, we know Ms. Harley works hard for the county council as a council administrator. And then we have the auditor that falls under the county council. And that's just those two, correct? Okay. All right. Also provided for us was the legislative session documents that go back to 1981. That was for our information. I'm going to let everybody just look through that, see if you have anything you want to bring up next.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There is one thing. So it just didn't say planning and zoning. There's just been a change where there used to be a council member on there that had to be on there. Now there's not one. And it's actually, it's handwritten on this one page, but it was a question I had after our last meeting, and it just reminded me of it. What duties are required that someone from the council and possibly from the is the executive required similar? I don't know that answer, but there are some boards that somebody has to be there, such as maybe the new sanitary district board. They may be, I know planning and zoning, there's not going to be one. And some people are on, say, PAC 14 board, but if you don't go, then they still function. So
you're just pointing out that there are certain
do
committees where there is council members that may or may not show up.
Which ones do they actually are required?
Are required to-
Yeah, I will give you one instance. You would know when they construct a school. There's usually
School construction.
Yes, and I don't know anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do pick out some of these other counties to compare duties, do they have a similar requirement? Again, because it may be a moot point, or it may be actually very valid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do have to serve on various boards and commissions, and it just depends on the bylaws of that board or commission as to whether or not a council member can serve, whether they're voting or non-voting. I wrote that at the bottom because it's not actually one of the requirements that or duty that they have to do per the charter, but it is.
An expectation.
required. Yeah, they're expected to do that. Not only that, but, they also have a lot of ribbon cuttings that they have to go to, a lot of meetings that we have to have council representatives at. It could be like a Salisbury Chamber of Commerce meeting, Greater Salisbury Committee meeting. So there are just a few extra responsibilities that are not shown in our charter that I wanted to point that out. A lot of candidates are not aware of those, and they come on and they think it's just, they meet twice a month and that's all they do, and that is not true. They do a lot more than just a meeting.
They have to go to the ribbon cuttings?
It's not a requirement, but,
It's an expectation.
It's an expectation.
Oh, sure, but that's, yeah.
So it's really more of a time commitment. You think you're going to be coming to these meetings every other week and, but, there is a lot more to it, and you're invited to most everything there is, and
Especially, if they are in a specific district, the public wants to see them at their events, I think it's part of the civic duty to be part of the community.
Oh, and I could totally agree, but we'll never be able to compare that, I don't think, in another county, and then that might just go into them getting reelected, I guess. But if they had, like, the Tri-County Council, somebody from, I guess, the county council has to be there, but if the executive also has duties that are required like that, I wouldn't know, and if that's part of what they have to do, I would want to make sure we did understand it. Just, it goes into your point earlier, really, what do they have to do,
the executive is expected to attend those.
Okay.
Just one observation, too. I'm curious if there's a way to find out if attendance at council meetings in these other peer counties is a requirement for the executive's office.
have anything on that? Let's see, job descriptions, powers, duties for the county executive and the county council. I think we've talked about that. I don't think Mr. Taylor's on here. He's not. Okay. So we'll just table that till the next meeting.
Yeah.
If he still wants to go over his information that he had pulled together for us.
See the comparisons at the end for the,
Joe had mentioned that he had some data points and some information he wanted to share. Do you still want to do that now based on what we've covered? Or?
Yep, nope,
Okay.
I feel really good.
Okay,
Thank
so,
you.
we've got about 15 minutes before
It's pretty good.
we had set aside, so if everybody's okay,
I do
listen
have
to this
a
and see what.
question, just a small
Sure, go
question.
ahead.
When we receive documents, like the emails that are not this, so there's a document that is someone else's words that they've come up with, how are we supposed to verify what they are writing?
I would prefer that not happen. At the last meeting, it was stated that there had been information that had been compiled and not everybody had it. So I had asked Mrs. Hurley if she could get that so that we all had the same information and it just wasn't certain people sitting at the table. So I would prefer that not happen. If there's anything that needs to be discussed or shared, I'd rather for it to wait till the meeting and then it be shared at the meeting. Okay. Joe, I'll turn it over to you. You said you had some few things you wanted to share with us, and
No, I thought from my request that you weren't going to set time aside, so.
well, I said if we had 5 minutes at the end, 'cause I
Yeah.
didn't know how long it was going to
Well,
take us, but it's up to you if you want to.
I do have it.
Now,
so-
or if you want to wait till
No,
the next meeting.
No, I'll present it if that's
Okay,
okay. Can I just pass out my?
Sure, yeah,
It's-
perfect.
It's 6 pages and they're big type.
And you said
so-
you were going to be how long?
Less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Ms. Hurley could put the timer on them.
yeah. She's good at putting the timer.
I'm better at it than you.
Don't take your 5 minutes walking around
I've got
passing out
everybody here
papers.
till 5:30. I just want to make sure that I don't want to.
That's okay.
Waste everybody's time, so.
I said, don't spend your 5 minutes passing out these papers.
Yeah, 'cause she started the clock the minute
Yeah.
you said something, she started.
And Chelsea, we'll make sure you get a copy of these as well. and everybody else.
Madam Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity to present. Thank you all for listening. This does echo what I was bringing up earlier, but again, not to put my views on you, it's just to spur the conversation. There were some things when, and honestly, when Bob sent out some information early on, I looked at it and I thought, there's a lot on here that does not matter. So then I asked myself the question, what would matter to me? Because I would definitely want to know what matters to everyone else here. When I look at counties that I thought would be good for peer review would be Cecil, Frederick, and Anne Arundel. I did want to note on here that we do have almost 50% of our residents who live in a municipality, and I don't know much about those two counties at that level. I mean, I know Mardella, I know Hebron, I know Pittsville, Willards, but I don't know Ellicott City that well, or Urbana, or anything. So, if you flip to the second page, it talks about Cecil County, and just this data I pulled off of the same data that the survey came from. Cecil County's executive salary and their council members compared to ours. But more importantly, I felt like what would cost to live in that county? So what does it cost to own a home? And even Cecil County, they do have a larger budget, and the household income is higher. I do agree with Mr. Atkins' point that it's probably more accurate to go with individual income than household, and I didn't think of that. The number of households earning over 100,000 was something that it stood out to me only because we're talking about a position that is about 100,000. So is that congruent with what folks are expecting to make in that county? And then like I said earlier, the median household income or household average, the median home price. So I know we don't recruit from outside the county to come here, but if we did, like you would for the hospital or even for SU, that would be a factor. You know, to be a professor at Salisbury University, housing's less expensive than, say, an American university where you're down in DC. So I'm sure that's a factor at SU. I give you the same data points in Frederick, and this is not the meeting to go through those data points. Again, my point wasn't to instill my beliefs on you. It was just to say, hey, there is an apples and oranges here. You take Frederick or Anne Arundel County, for instance. The median home price is almost double, and yet I know that at the very least they manage water and sewer treatment plants as a county-wide system, where we do it here more on a municipality level, and they also have a police force. And then if really the meat of this presentation is the last 2 pages, was the workload in relation to compensation and pay. Like, maybe more rhetorical questions, but would the group want to dive in further? So what's the total number of employees and departments? I used to be a golf course superintendent. I was at a golf course with 25 employees. There were golf course superintendents who had 50 employees. They didn't make double my salary, but they did make a significant more amount than my salary. So it's not one for one. What kinds of infrastructure do those counties have? Because that's, you know, if you're a county councilman or woman and you're having to manage water and sewer treatment plants as part of your legislative duty, that's going to require more visits. It may not be more ribbon cuttings, but it's going to be more
Time.
More time, yeah.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
What percentage of people in those counties live in municipalities like Delmar or Fruitland, you know? And then the conclusions I've drawn, again, this is just for me, is that I think we should definitely look at numbers from the 9 counties that have an executive forum, decide which ones we think would be worth it, and then do a deeper dive later on. And then actually other folks have talked about the benefits packages more than I have, but I do think that's relevant as well. And that's it. I think I'm under 3 minutes.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Awesome.
No, there's a red light on.
Oh, was it? Oh.
I really like that second question about duties and what is under the management. I think that's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and I do think that the county executive is running a business, right? And, you mentioned about nonprofits and what those leaders make and compare and things like that. I think we probably should look at other businesses, people who have similar budgets, similar number of employees, whatever, to make sure, because someone's going to quit their job to go do this one. Look at our current executive. She was a teacher. I don't know what her salary was, but I'm sure it was significant. So she decided that she was going to quit that to take this job on, right? Is there someone else out there that's the CEO of a company that will decide that they want to quit what they're doing and run for county executive for a salary? Do we want to look at those kinds and see if there's anything out there that we can compare those numbers to? It's a business. They're running a business.
Well, I agree with the fact that the county is a business and it needs to be run like a business. I kind of look at the executive and the council the same as I would look at a corporation with a CEO and board of directors. The CEO is the one who's there, but the board of directors is the one that's telling him what to do. And you kind of have the same thing with the council and the executive. My understanding in reading the charter and things, the executive's responsibility is to ensure that what the council has legislated gets followed through and done, and that the department heads do their job. So I take a little bit of difference with the, go ahead, sir.
I generally concur. Maybe I'm the old relic from the past, but I tend not to necessarily like the sound of the idea that we're running a business, because the purpose of a government is to fulfill critical duties of the citizenry without a profit motive. It does need to be managed well. It does need to be a competent operation, which I guess you can say is related to that. But I do think, and there's a reason why we call it public service. We don't expect that the CEO, in a perfect world, is going to become a representative just to enrich themselves. And I think when we're looking at how we're compensating, we also do have to consider what is the motivation of the people that are going into that. Is it to make more money or comparable, or is it to perform a degree of services that we as the public have created? So that's just something, again, it's a nitpicky thing as a historian, but it's there.
As you're saying that, I think the big thing that I want to go back to is we want to compensate people fairly.
Sure.
It's not necessarily about this is a public service. I mean, it's a public service for us to be teachers and help students but that doesn't mean I should be unfairly compensated for my
Sure.
work.
And as a teacher, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, so if the person that we're looking at, and I think that's what I keep thinking about, what are their job duties? Are they compensated fairly? Are they compensated fairly as compared to other people? Because they can leave.
Sure.
We're not in the 1800s. They don't have to walk anywhere. They can just drive someplace else and say, hey, I'll drive an hour to go to work and get paid twice as much
Sure.
to do the same job here. So I just want to be thoughtful about what we're saying when you're saying, hey, well, it's a public service. It may not be.
Well, sorry to your point, and again, we both work at SU, so I think we're in total agreement that people should be paid fairly for what they do. But I'll leave it at that. But I just think the idea that we're looking at it as let's say, a public entity versus a for-profit corporation, there is a difference. I mean, that's why it is government versus private sector. And, again, I'm just saying the philosophy of that, I just think needs to be taken into account. Like I said, I'm nitpicking. I totally get it. But.
So I would say maybe your nonprofit corporation is probably a better comparison than what you're thinking, as opposed to, say, a for-profit CEO.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily for us, anyone that files a 990, you can look at.
Right.
You can go down and dig those numbers as much as you want. So I think you can definitely find comparisons
Yeah.
in the nonprofit world.
Yep.
A lot easier than the for-profit world.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how diverse this group of people are, right? I work in a nonprofit, so I'm going to bring the perspective of a nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
He's a teacher, he brings that perspective, and that's the reason why we're not all business owners here, trying to determine who gets paid the best money. We all bring something unique to this question about duties, fair pay. I mean, we deal with that every day. So I think it's great that we're having this conversation, and we are going to be not discounting those perspectives and those mindsets.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've had some good conversation. I think we've all made each other think about things in different ways and be open to others' views. I appreciate that very much. Chelsea, did you have anything you want to share? Hello?
Still there. She's just muted.
Chelsea, can you hear me? Tell. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to share before we adjourn our meeting today? Have we covered everything at this point? We're comfortable in breaking for the next 2 weeks. We're going to get some information. We'll be able to come back. As we said, we'll do a deep dive, get into some specifics and comparisons and things like that. Anybody have anything else they want to share? You're ready to say something.
Yes, well, I just want to verify something. The next meeting is on the 10th of September.
That's what I got.
Right, no, I'm not, I'm just stating that. But, Ms. Hurley, is that the day of the electrical board that we have to be out here at 5, or?
I didn't bring the calendar.
I thought that was yesterday.
But we had avoided that.
Okay, that's fine. I
think that's why we were on a Wednesday
That's what
this
we're doing
time.
it all, I thought that was a Tuesday meeting, and that's what we were doing
That's
Wednesdays.
good.
But I might be,
It just popped in my head for some reason, and
but Ms. Hurley will verify
Yeah.
that for us and let us know.
yeah. I just didn't want a 5:30
Yep.
adjournment.
I agree,
and
yep.
We're going to get kicked out at 5.
Nope, we can be proactive.
It just
Take care of
jumped-
that issue if
yeah.
it is an issue.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else?
Just thank you to you, Ms. Hurley, and
Yes.
to Ms. Garvin for the wonderful presentation.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all so much for your time and commitment. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You have a
A
motion.
motion, we have a
Second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.